Hi, my name is Robert Chelle with Chelle Law, and I'm an attorney that assists physicians with employment contract and independent contractor agreement issues. Today I'm going to talk about what is tail insurance for a physician and things to think about when you are reviewing your contract and looking at who is responsible for tail insurance. So first I'll just break down kind of the two most common malpractice insurance types, and then we'll kind of go into the red flags for tail and some strategies involved with that as well. So first, an occurrence-based policy, it simply means a policy has to be in effect when the incident occurs, and so therefore no tail insurance is necessary. I would say most smaller physician-owned practices do not use occurrence-based insurance. They normally use claims made. They'll pay for the underlying premium, and then they'll put the responsibility to pay for tail on the physician. So occurrence, you don't need tail. It's generally about a third more expensive per year. But if I had to choose or tell someone if it was up to them what type of policy to get, an occurrence-based policy definitely makes the most sense. You don't have to worry about purchasing tail. You don't have to worry about the length of tail. Although it is a little bit more expensive per year, generally in the long run, it works out mathematically that you will save a little bit more if you use an occurrence-based policy. Now, this is specialty dependent, so there will be some specialties where it may not make as much sense, but in this case, or at least the general case, it does. A claims-made policy means a policy has to be in effect when the claim is made. So meaning your claims-made policy ends when you terminate employment. So you would then have a gap in between the last day that you provided care and then the last day somebody can sue you. And in most states for malpractice claims, it's 2 years. So there needs to be a second policy that's purchased that covers that gap in between when you leave and then the last day somebody can sue you, and that's called tail insurance. Now, who pays for tail is completely contractual, meaning it's going to be in your employment contract or independent contractor agreement of who pays the cost of tail insurance. This is something you can negotiate, and obviously I would advise you to do so. As far as tail cost goes, it's generally about twice what your annual premium is. So a family practice doctor, and I'm just using kind of like nationwide averages, somewhere between $6,000 to $8,000 a year. So you double that, your tail cost will be somewhere between $12,000 to $16,000. It's a one-time payment, so it's not like you pay this every year. But it still is a cost that you would prefer not to have to pay for. In some specialties, this can be the most important negotiation point. For instance, an OBGYN can have extraordinarily high annual premium costs, and I've seen tails as high as $80,000 to $100,000. This is something that obviously could impact any kind of physician financially, and so determining who pays tail for some of the higher surgical level specialties is very important. Now, what are some strategies in trying to get the employer to pay for tail? Well, if it's just no, we're not going to pay for it, you can't offer at least some alternatives. The first one that at least I find is the most effective is to tie your tenure with the employer to the percentage that they're going to pay. So for instance, let's say you'd say, all right, if I leave within the first year, I'll pay 100%. If I leave within the second year, I'll pay 75%. If I leave within the third year, 50%, and then just tie it to that. And that would be more palatable for an employer because they'll think, all right, well, this will incentivize the physician to stay on a more long-term basis. And then if they do stay for 4 years, they more than have made up the cost of whatever their tail is going to be. Now, if you work for a hospital or healthcare network, many of them are self-insured, and meaning you're ultimately not going to have to worry about purchasing tail insurance. And if you do work for a hospital or health network, it is very uncommon that they would utilize a claims-made policy where they would force the physician to pay for their own tail. I will see it occasionally in a rural hospital, but for the most part, you should not have to pay your own tail if you work for a hospital or healthcare network. So that's a little bit about tail insurance for a physician. If you have any questions about an employment contract or independent contractor agreement, feel free to contact my law firm. All the information is below in the description, and I appreciate you watching the video. All right, thanks. Take care.